Morning, everyone. Thank you for coming to this side event about empowering youth-led solution from the leaders of today, youth solution and partnership for accelerated action. My name is Mario González Azcárate. I work as a researcher in Spain. I'm also the chair of the Youth Alliance for Zero Hunger and board member of the Next Generation Impact Network. I will be the moderator of this side event in which youth panelists will showcase some youth-led solutions that are already contributing to the 5 areas identified by the Promoting Youth Engagement and Employment in Agriculture and Food System policy guidelines that will be hopefully endorsed tomorrow by the plenary. Those areas are: the first one is providing an enabled environment for youth. Second, secure, dignified, attractive, and rewarding livelihood for youth. Increase equitable access of youth to resources, skills, and infrastructure and markets, And fourth area is enhancing equitable access to knowledge, education, and the skills of youth. And lastly, we have foster sustainable and inclusive innovation for youth. After this presentation, we will open the discussion for the participants in this room, but also the participants that are attending the event online. And we are looking forward to a dynamic debate on recognizing the role of youth as agents towards achieving the Sustainable Development Goals and the sustainable and resilient agri-food system transformation that we all need. We first must acknowledge that food systems are the largest employer of young people, and this is particularly important in the global south. And even supposing a great opportunity for youth, food systems often do not provide a decent and meaningful work or adequate livelihood opportunities. Young people are not only the leaders of tomorrow, but also the leaders of today. As we seek solutions to the emerging food crisis, lessons can be learned from youth-led agricultural solutions that address ongoing crises. Attracting and enabling youth to meaningfully engage and have agency in our agri-food system is fundamental. Over the last years, many international youth-led efforts have been made to carry out actions that put youth in the center of the global agenda and provide opportunities to effectively engage youth in agri-food system. To name a few, we have the Food System Summit Youth Action Track, the World Food Forum, or the Next Generation Impact Network. Now that we have a common ground in the international arena set by the addressed CFS policy recommendation, we want to demonstrate the potential of implementing these policy guidelines by showcasing concrete examples of youth-led solutions and the potential of collaborative partnership between youth and governments. Saying that, I would like to introduce our first speaker. He came from Peru. His name is Leonardo Umaña, and he is the youth analyst for the Environment, Climate, and Gender Social Inclusion Division in Latin America at the International Fund for Agricultural Development. His role at IFA include developing, supporting, and evaluating activities related to youth, gender, and social inclusion in Latin American and the Caribbean region. So Nicolas, Leonardo, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. But at first, I'm from Costa Rica. It's okay. Let me introduce this before my speech with that, because it was really funny. I had a lot of problem to enter to this building, because also I'm work to United Nations. You know, the people of security doesn't recognize me, doesn't recognize my badge, and I cannot enter. And I was thinking about that really represent a lot. If I have this problem, also working for UN Nations, how a lot of barriers the people in the field have to approach to the people that actually have the resources. Imagine that. I was thinking about it when I was just sitting and look my really good colleagues just running to let me get into the bill. I want to start with this, but that make me create a question in my mind, and that's an honest question. When you hear about what I was working the last 20 years in my life, and if you ask me what the young rural people in Latin America need, I really don't know. because I'm a man. Unfortunately, I'm not younger alone anymore. I'm not rural. I cannot understand the daily experiences of young rural people. Even less can I understand what a young indigenous girl needs in the Indian zone or the Amazon, a young rural Central American migrant, or an Afro young person in the coast of or island of the Caribbean. I really don't know because I don't live there. And that's quite important to understand. But having this clear as a person, as a part of organization that support and strengthens activities to young people in rural areas, it only thing that remains is to look for a route that allow us to build line of work that make consistent effort to respond adequately to the needs and aspiration of rural young people. In personal terms, listening; in political terms, dialogue; in technical terms, consultations. As a heterogeneous group, you'd require dynamic and differentiated approaches tailored to each specific operational context, especially at the local level, where young people have very specific needs and there is a great chance that they will be excluded. That means we must use an intersectional approach which allows for scaling up to the communities. And I changed this because I was hearing a really powerful woman yesterday and say, we are not going down, to the grassroots. We have to scaling up to the communities. It's a different way to think. And I think it's quite important to understand what actually we have to do in our work. In fact, much of youth want to be partners in development, no recipients of development. That is important. Not a passive participant of development initiative. They want ownership, and any frameworks will develop to engage with them at local, national, and regional, and even global levels, particularly with regards to seasonal employment and entrepreneurship opportunities in agribusiness and other areas as not agriculture, rural work. That is also important then. They also want to be able to have an open and transparent dialogue with the older generation, because we cannot lost what the old people know, but we have to dialogue, create these ways, Promoting your people participation in rural areas is particularly challenging. Several sets of exclusion apply. Rural youth are usually less connected, more isolated. Their voices have been fragmented, not because of them, because of the system, and often unable to cohesively articulate issues affecting their livelihoods through existing youth councils and platforms. And that's the idea of the grassroots approach project that IFA actually implement globally, but I will talk a little bit about the Colombia case, because it's one important. To aggregate the fragmented voices of young people and to promote varying degrees of interaction at all levels, regional, global, and the community, with youth who are performing a range of different roles depending on their interests and priorities. Under this framework, voice inclusivity is achieved to contribute to rural transformation. Multiple interest point to youth through IFAD country program cycles are activated whenever identified needs or opportunity arise. In Colombian case, for example, we are scaling up to accompany the strength a rural youth alliance that is led by different youth organizations. One of them, Azoje, is actually led by a really powerful youth woman, and that's quite important. And because we are helping strengthen these capacities, and in the coming weeks, not only for helping to create the network, because in the coming weeks, this alliance will be an essential counterpart for the design of a new national project design, which IFA will be developing together with the Colombian government. And that's quite important, is help them, transcend these capacities and put together with the government to talk, to create this reach, to jump the gaps. And just for finish, the dynamic and flexible nature of this option make it the possibility to tailor the approach on a country-by-country basis with building on existing good practices and working with youth entities to enhance the quality of youth-sensitive country program delivery. And that's our proposal. Thank you very much, and sorry for my sometimes informal way to talk.
Thank you, Leonardo, and we love your informal way to talk. I think that's something that youth can bring into the table as well. Now we will play a video that has been submitted by the government of Quebec about aquaponic farm. We're going through technical issues. But thank you, and I mean, we really appreciate it. Like, well, we'll keep it for later.
Thank you.
Until we figure out how to enable sound of the video, we're gonna jump to Ebunologuela Ahobiewe. I hope that I got that one right. I always call her Ebun. And she is an advocate preoccupied with the need to stem the tide of global, global food insecurity. And he has over 5 years of experience in active volunteering and the social impact sector. She has championed several causes relating to youth in agriculture, and she's also a Youth Summit delegate with her project idea emerging in the final. So, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mario. My name is Ebonlua Ajobiwe. I know it's quite difficult to get the pronunciation correct. I am from Nigeria, and like Mario said, I will be talking about my project, the Maximilian Project. What comes to your mind when you hear of prisoners? You imagine what could they possibly have to do with today's topic on youth-led solutions for sustainable food future, for instance. What could prisoners possibly have to do with this? I've had the opportunity to visit a correctional center, and on one of my visits, I found that there are different groups of prisoners. Describing it broadly, there are those with no interest in reformation and those who are actively trying to improve themselves. But sadly, the opportunities are limited. In Nigeria, over 70,000 people are living in prisons, and this number is projected to increase. Incarcerated people do not receive sufficient skills for financial autonomy after their sentences have expired. There is an increasing population, declining farming population, and thousands of incarcerated persons who don't have the relevant skills for financial autonomy. People who could become self-sufficient, small-scale farmers, or whatever they could choose to be if they had the right opportunities. Research has attributed this developmental problem to overcrowding, shortage of resources, and this could be as a result of a default in policy implementation, which raises health concerns for prisoners living in all the prisons across Nigeria. So what is the innovation? What is the Maximilian Project really about? We seek to minimize unemployment and strengthen agri-food systems by training inmates to become self-sufficient smallholder landowners, farmers in the long term. Inclusion of prisoners in societal planning. The Maximilian Project is a social inclusion startup with a vision to provide training in agricultural enterprises to incarcerated persons in Nigeria, empowering them to become financially sustainable. So the ground-laying vision of the Maximilian Project is to provide this agricultural training. But how do we seek to do this? And in fact, why is it important? It's important because there is a problem of stigmatization. Nobody wants to have anything to do with people that have been to prison and back. But if through this project, we're able to provide them with a sort of living, we're also going to create a ripple effect of reintegration back into the society. And this, in a broader perspective, should also help them become net contributors to the Nigerian national food supply. So currently, we know that the average age of a farmer worldwide is about 60 years, which is really high, we need more young people, and this is like the crux of the matter, to be involved in agriculture. And these hands are, available. Nowadays, the focus is on projects that can, create impact very fast and have good results. But how about we try in new places with new actors to involve, all parts of the population in this cause of ending food insecurity in the world. So our approach is to start our operational activities in Oyo Town, a medium-sized city located about 60 kilometers away from Ibadan, the capital of the Southwest state of Oyo, which is the biggest city in Western Africa. So therefore, this team is currently collaborating with some local partners, the NCS, Nigerian Correctional Service, and the Justice Development and Peace Movement. And we seek to extend our operations, across the state. So really, it's a big project, as you can imagine. We aim to, like, through the project, create mentors, and these people would also become employers of labor. So if you have any questions, I'll be really happy to take them. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Abul. What an exciting project that I think we all want to know more. I think it's really, really not innovative. Now I think we are able to play the video from Quebec.
La ferme urbaine Okume, c'est une micro-ferme hydroponique déjà, dont je suis la propriétaire. Et c'est un beau projet agricole qui est en place depuis déjà 1 an et demi. L'objectif, c'est vraiment de promouvoir l'intensification durable de l'agriculture. Cette ferme-là, elle est située à Libreville, donc dans la capitale du Gabon, pays dont je suis originaire. Et c'est vraiment dans un centre urbain, fait que c'est vraiment dans un quartier où il y a beaucoup de circulation, il y a beaucoup d'habitants. Et donc en plus d'apporter des légumes de qualité, ça apporte un peu de joie, un peu de vert et un peu d'agriculture. Je suis allée passer un été au Gabon. Et j'ai trouvé ça assez choquant de savoir que 80% de ce que les personnes consommaient était importé et qu'une grande partie de ce qui était La ferme urbaine Okume, c'est une micro-ferme hydroponique déjà, dont je suis la propriétaire. Et c'est un beau projet agricole qui est en place depuis déjà 1 an et demi. L'objectif, c'est vraiment de promouvoir l'intensification durable de l'agriculture. Cette ferme-là, elle est située à Libreville, donc dans la capitale du Gabon, pays dont je suis originaire. Et c'est vraiment dans un centre urbain, fait que c'est vraiment dans un quartier où il y a beaucoup de circulation, il y a beaucoup d'habitants. Et donc en plus d'apporter des légumes de qualité, ça apporte un peu de joie, un peu de vert et un peu d'agriculture. Je suis allée passer un été au Gabon. Et j'ai trouvé ça assez choquant de savoir que 80% de ce que les personnes consommaient était importé et qu'une grande partie de ce qui était produit localement n'était pas retracé. On ne pouvait pas savoir comment ça a été produit, d'où ça vient. Et je pense que c'est vraiment à partir de là que j'ai eu comme le déclic que c'est un problème auquel il faut trouver une solution. Et en revenant à Montréal, c'est vraiment coïncidence, des conversations avec des personnes. J'ai pu découvrir l'agriculture durable, redécouvrir un petit peu. Et c'est de là que c'est vraiment parti l'idée de la ferme urbaine Okume. On est vendredi aujourd'hui. Généralement, à cette heure-là, je vais appeler Stone à la ferme pour être sûr que tout va bien, qu'il n'y a pas de problème, qu'il n'y a pas de surprise. Salut! Est-ce que tu peux me remontrer les channels blancs, s'il te plaît? Je veux juste m'assurer que c'est propre pour plus tard. C'est super. Ah, montre encore un peu. C'est super. Dis-moi, est-ce que vous avez pu livrer toutes les carottes? Oui. C'est super. Merci Stone. Ça a été un gros avantage pour moi de commencer le projet de la ferme ici, de la réfléchir ici, parce que le discours sur les changements climatiques et l'importance de modifier nos habitudes de consommation est très présent au Québec, ce qui n'est pas le cas au Gabon. Donc, de pouvoir être ici et de vraiment avoir accès à cette expertise-là, accès à ces conversations, à ces documents, à ces rencontres, moi, ça m'a vraiment permis d'avoir comme on va dire, un peu d'avance sur ce qui se fait ou ce qui se dit de l'autre côté. Et j'ai été aussi bien accompagnée par des personnes dans le domaine ici. Le rôle de Logique, donc les Offices internationaux jeunesse du Québec, a été vraiment important dans la concrétisation du projet parce que c'est une organisation qui valorise la mobilité internationale. Donc, de savoir que je pouvais avoir de l'aide du Québec pour pouvoir faire un projet à Libreville, c'était super important. Moi, ce projet-là, je l'ai fait à travers l'initiative Jeunesse pour la lutte des changements climatiques qui est encadrée par Logique. Donc, ça a été ça leur rôle depuis vraiment le début, depuis la création, la concrétisation du projet de la ferme. L'initiative jeunesse de lutte contre les changements climatiques, c'est un programme qui encourage les jeunes tout simplement à offrir des solutions pour faire face aux changements qui vont être opérés dans l'environnement. Je pense qu'on peut le voir dans la vie de tous les jours, mais l'histoire nous l'a montré aussi. Lorsqu'on s'allie, lorsqu'on s'associe, lorsqu'on coopère, lorsqu'on échange, on est beaucoup plus fort et on peut accomplir beaucoup plus. Donc, au niveau de la francophonie, au niveau du Québec, le fait qu'on s'associe entre pays francophones, le fait qu'on mette en place des institutions et des programmes qui nous permettent d'échanger, des deux côtés, ça nous avantage. Je pense que des deux côtés, on peut en retirer de grandes choses. Le Québec a un très grand rôle en fait dans la francophonie parce que de notre attachement au français, de l'importance qu'on y accorde et des mesures concrètes qu'on prend pour la protéger et la valoriser, ben, ça montre qu'il y a quelque chose là qu'il faut préserver. Donc quand les gens s'en rendent compte, ça aussi c'est quelque chose qui fait une différence.
Lovely. Thank you from the participation of Quebec government that they will also have the floor later on the discussion part. And now I will like to introduce you to Juan David Caro Alvarez. He's a zoo technician working in the institutional representation and WIPAR Peru, and where he facilitates and generates strategic relationships with other organizations such as municipalities or the International Land Coalition. He also has collaborated in the design of rural agricultural development projects, working with youth groups and also working with young farmers in the Peruvian jungle to help them to implement an environmental friendly farming that fights climate change. So Juan David, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mario. Thank you all. I'm so glad to be here. So I want to talk to the school for youth ruralists. In Peru, there is limited access to quality education, especially for rural youth. Based on this, WIPAR Peru in 2016 see the opportunity to create and promote a training space called a School for Youth Ruralists. The objective is to promote the strengthening of the capacity of youth people through the design and formulation of projects in favor of agrarian development with innovative proposal and aligning with the needs of the rural communities with which it works. In the voluntary guidelines, equitable access to quality education is highly welcome and needed by youth. In the presentation, you can see the last results of the last schools, but I want to show, I want to speak about all of results. So during these 5 years of continuous volunteer work, we are contributing to the SDG 4 quality education, specifically with goals 4.5, which indicate by 2030, gender disparity in education must be eliminated. In the school 70% of participants are women, for example, and equal access to all levels of education must be ensured. Youth are accepted for all levels of academic instruction at different territories in our school. And vocational training for vulnerable people, including people with disabilities, indigenous people, and children in situations of vulnerability. And 4.7 that mentions by 2030, it must be ensured that all students acquire the theoretical and practical knowledge necessary to promote sustainable development. Our school teach and strengthens capacity in the design and formulation of projects that can contribute to rural agricultural developments based on good management practice and agroecology. That is very important, including through the education for sustainable development and sustainable lifestyles, human rights, gender equality, promotion of culture of peace and nonviolence, global citizenship, and the appreciation of cultural diversity and the contribution of cultures to sustainable development. I want to finish saying, while it is true that the first two editions of the school were face-to-face, the COVID pandemic allows to reinvent ourselves in a virtual rural extension format, and so far we have been able to build capacity with more than 300 participants from 22 regions of Peru and from 5 Latin America countries such as Ecuador, Colombia, Paraguay, Mexico, and Honduras, achieving the design of more than 50 rural agrarian development projects. Likewise, more than 40 rural communities in Peru were positively impacted with the projects designed by the interdisciplinary teams on each of food security, strengthening of productive chains, improving of food production, and cattle raising, an organization strengthening for an agroecological perspective with a gender, intercultural, and sustainable approach. The time is final, so thank you so much.
Thank you, Juan David. Sorry for the time constraints. We started a little late, as you know. Lastly, we have our last participant also participating remotely in this side event. Her name is Samara Polwata, and she's a researcher based in Sri Lanka and works as a junior consultant on the UNDP SDG integration team. She specifically works on data curation and data management related to the Sustainable Development Goals tracking. She's passionate about the oceans and has been involved in several coral rehabilitation projects around Sri Lanka, and recently won the Best Nature-Based Solution representing the school METS, the Reef team. I think we have the video ready. Okay.
All right, thank you very much for the kind introduction. So as even highlighted by several reports, including the IPCC 6th assessment, it's also very important that we transition ourselves with the involvement of ecosystems and nature-based solutions. So as a youth itself, representing the young community from Sri Lanka, myself and my team worked hard to use nature-based solutions as an opportunity to work towards achieving several core benefits, including improving the blue economy of Sri Lanka. So now we can show the video that we created based on our project. Thanks.
Coral reefs on the east coast of Sri Lanka is considered as one of the most resilient reefs that we have. And it's also one of the areas which provides a lot of benefits for the community, including disaster risk reduction and also for the blue economy for fishing, ornamental fishing, and tourism activities. Therefore, School Meets the Reef team, we decided that rehabilitating the coral reefs, which has been depleted by fishing activities, bleaching, and other anthropogenic stressors, should be maintained and restored. So first of all, what we did was a baseline study. The team assessed the levels of salinity and other parameters to see the feasibility of putting forward these coral nurseries. Then we started coral reef walls using recycled concrete and a nursery using iron rods.
On the 27th to 29th of July, we started to go into the site to deploy these reef balls. And it was not an easy task. We had to get the assistance from Lanka volunteers, officers from Marine Environmental Protection Authority, and also the fishermen from the community. Therefore, we went ahead and then we deployed the reef balls 500 meters away from the shoreline at a depth of 5 meters. Afterwards, we gathered the coral fragments from the area itself, which was Acropora corals, and we started attaching them using underwater cement and also cable ties.
Special underwater cement එකක් මේක අපි use කරන්නේ coral ටික attach කරගන්න reef ball එකට. මේක සාමාන්‍යයෙන් අපි reef ball එක අලවලා විනාඩි 20ක් විතර ගියපුවාම fully tied වෙනවා.
We were also very fortunate to do a monitoring session 1 month after the outplanting, and it was amazing to see that the corals have grown by about 1 to 2 millimeters with purple color tips.
So I will take you through some of the key achievements of our project. So through the school program, what we tried was to train school children as change makers and also to spread the word on the importance of nature-based solutions in coastal conservation. The important thing about our project is that it's not just owned by one group, it's more of a shared responsibility. And also we pass down the responsibility, especially to the youth in the area. So in that way, it will make it more sustainable. And talking about the ability to replicate, this model can be easily replicated.
Thank you. Thank you to all the panelists for sharing these youth-led solutions. Now I would like to open the discussion for the rest of participants in person and online. We were really trying to focus to get a discussion with government representatives, but I don't know if we have many here actually. Can you raise your hand if you are a government representative? Okay. These two people deserve an applause. To be honest. We truly try hard to invite a lot of national delegation to this event. Like we tried, and they were willing to do so, but at the end, I understand as well. We understand that there was a plenary session before that was really intense, but I think this showcases one of the problems that we have in general, recognizing youth in these spaces. I think we have now youth in the global agenda, but we are still seeing youth as a tokenist in which having a youth in the table is enough, but we don't truly provide him the opportunity and the agency to actually shape the policy, discuss the policies that will affect them directly. So please, if you want to intervene in the debate, raise your hands, try to briefly present yourself, and try to address your question if possible, and also try to be as brief as possible because we are, as you know, we are having time troubles. And first, I would like to give the floor to Mr. Peter Smith. He's the president of the NET of the European Economic and Social Committee, and he wants to share with us some insights on the EU Year of Youth. So please, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mario. I hope all understand me here from this side. Thanks for giving me the floor. Let me start it first with Leonardo. So perhaps you're too young to get access. So and that's the problem. What we have, that youth is not, as we heard right now, not enough represented in institutions in the policy-making process. So I come from the European Economic and Social Committee. Give you a flavor what it is, that you understand and bear in mind what we did then to understand perhaps how important it is. So the European Economic and Social Committee is an old institution which is already in the Roman treaties. We are an advisory board in the European Brussels bubble world. So means we advise the Commission, we advise the Parliament, and sometimes the member states, but also the Council. We have a composition of 3 groups: employers, trade unionists. I come from trade union side, and then we have the civil society groups. And we deal with different and all subjects in Europe. And we are nominated by our governments across Europe. And there lies the problem, because the representativeness of youth is not foreseen in the treaties that we say, okay, we must nominate from the countries, at least from the big countries as well, youth delegates. And once the youth movement arose and went to the street, we thought we have the obligation to invite the youth, not having them, Mario, only on the table, but we said we must ask the youth what is to be done, what is necessary to integrate the youth movement into our work, into our daily work. It's not that we said, no, we're going to provide you something, but we said we ask you. And in the process of a couple of months and years now, we developed some tools. That means we are in touch with a big youth organizations in Europe, and we said, so what is needed in order to onboard you in our work, because we produce opinions. And the first thing what we did is that we established a regular exchange with the youth. This is the first thing. The second thing is, in one of our opinions, we established the integration of youth, for instance, for the COP. So we sent delegates to the COP, but we said we want to have the youth also with us, and that's why we extended the delegation to the COP, and we're gonna pay all this what is necessary that the youth can afford it. So it means we go into the next COP not with 6 people, but with 7 people. Another important point is that we tried to onboard in all opinion-making processes the youth into the drafting process. Not just asking them, are you okay with this? But we ask them for contribution in drafting the different opinions. And the third important element is that we establish a so-called round table with the Commission, with the European Commission twice a year. That means we obliged through the ESC, the Commission to come, sit together with the youth. It's not us, not the 60-year-old man. We sit on the table as well, but we just as an observer. And the youth is organizing all the issue, the content, and the debate with the Commission. And the Commission is obliged to reply in a written form, so that they get a reply on the demands of the youth. The next steps are now during the year of the youth that we try to establish a so-called youth advisory board, where we think it is necessary that because the lack of the nomination process in the member states in Europe is like it is, and we said we can't wait that we change the room and the treaties, the European treaties. So that's why we said we must establish some of elements where the youth decide by themselves in which kind of work they want to contribute and in which not. That's in a nutshell, Mario. Did I forget something, Monica? So in a nutshell, what I've always do, with a good secretariat, you don't forget anything. In a nutshell, that what the ESC has been doing, and we try to develop, of course, the youth involvement in our work. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your insights. Before opening as well the floor for the rest of participants, I will also want to give the floor to Mrs. Gerda Berberg. She is the coordinator of the Scaling Up Nutrition Movement.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and panelists and participants. I didn't intend to talk about my own history, but when I had your age, especially the age of the lady from Nigeria and the gentleman of Peru, I was also a youth leader. But we said we don't want to go in politics, or we don't want to be in all these meetings room, because it's a lot of talk, and what will happen in practice. So we decided to move, and we decided to decide where we wanted to be, to lead the way we wanted to get things done. Later on, I was the first woman in several entities. And then I said, okay, my first objective is to be not alone in this. I want to have at least 2, 3, 4, 5 women with me. Otherwise, men say, all right, so we have listened to the woman, very important, and they continue to do what they did, and they do not change anything. So be tough, be demanding, and push for the things you want to get done. And don't reach too quick, too high, because then you will be incorporated and nothing will change. I am looking and expecting from you that you are bringing change to the way things are done. Right now, things are done top down. And I was attracted by the messages of Sri Lanka, of Nigeria, of Peru, that you young people are changing the world, but bottom up at the community level, in the rural area, from a farmer's perspective. And this is what is needed, because change happens bottom up. And here's my question. Once more, I didn't intend to take the floor to talk about my history, because it's about your future, but just to share the experience. And they had a tough time to get me into politics. Finally, I said, because I said, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, you talk too much in politics and you change too little. But finally, they said, we need changers, movers and shakers. And then I said, okay, then let me give it a try. Questions. The lady from Sri Lanka was talking about community and community-owned scaling up, involving children from primary school and maybe secondary school. How do you in Nigeria make this project that you are doing right now, or your approach, how do you make your community proud of it, and then scale it up to the regional level and to the national level, and then shout it out Nigeria? The same question for the rural youth in Peru. I know you are teaching also many people from other Latin American countries, but how do you make it an approach embedded and embraced and owned by the community and the rural area where you are working in? Thanks.
Thank you so much. We truly appreciate your words of wisdom and try to help the youth and how to effectively change the political.
I did my second youth.
Because, and before to give the floor to the panelists, I will also count. I don't know if the Quebec government wants to make an intervention from remotely. Let's see. Okay, so then I will want to give the floor first to Juan David regarding your here.
Thank you so much for your words. And first of all, I'm so sorry for my English. Well, how we can embrace the communities? In fact, we're trying to first of all mapping the communities that we have in our departments in Peru. We identify these communities maybe in Lanka space or jungle, and then we identify youth leaderships. With these youth leaderships, we make contact, and we are looking for what they are doing that we are trying to change in their communities. So in this way, we have contact with youth people that they want to bring change for their communities. So we have first that youth leaders in the communities. And then we make a group of 5 people, also youth, with all careers. They can be socialists, anthropologists, so technicians, agronomists, musicians, everything. And with this group, we connect with the leadership, with the person that is leader in the community, and in this way they make the project. This project is made in the framework of the governments, because in Peru there are government funds that we trying to apply with our projects. In fact, in the last year, 3 of our projects that was presented, and one achieved the funding. So the problem is that because we have like 50 projects, but not all can take the funding, you know. But that is the way that we are trying to embrace the community, because they do the projects in base with the necessities that they have. It's not like we make the project in wherever we want and give them to them. That in fact, that is a problem in Peru, because a lot of projects by the governments is roughly made in that way. It's like they made the projects and put in the communities and say, you have to do this, and that project don't going well. So thanks.
Thank you, Juan David. Samara, if you are ready, the floor is yours.
Right, thank you very much for the question. So the approach that we took, the grassroots level, community-based approach, is something that we have tested for like several years with working with the youth and the people in the area. It's actually doable, and it's also regionally and nationally scalable as well. So through our project, as a second step, what we are also working through is like not just making young stewards or youth at the moment, but also building, as you saw, the younger students, like from ages 12 to 16, like they may be living in the vicinity, but they don't have any idea about nature-based solutions or coastal environment. So we want to integrate our school syllabuses, especially in the in subjects like geography and biology, where we can integrate the different learnings, best practices, how do we work with the nature, these kinds of things, so that not within the rural landscape itself, but within the island itself, the knowledge is spread and disseminated. So that is the second step that we are going to move on to, so that it is regionally and nationally scalable. Thank you.
Thank you, Samara. Now I would like to open the floor for anyone.
I also want to hear from the
I also
Nigerians.
wanted to, yes, I also checked it. Thank you so much for your contributions and words of encouragement. It's really appreciated. I would like to state at this point that the Maximilian Project is in the nascent stage. And so we have benefited very much from idea incubation and education at this stage to develop the project and access many areas of feasibility for the project. And this has been very important to get to this point in the project development. And so if we are, during this process, we have understood that we would need volunteers. And this brings me back to what Leonardo was saying. As the founder of the Maximilian Project, I currently I'm an international student, and yet I am very passionate about changing the narratives for people living in incarcerated conditions. And this is because I believe that as young people, we need to strive, to make a change on the ground. And so the Maximilian Project identifies that we need a team on the ground, and this requires investment, lots of resources to be able to go around to the communities, as you said, because we are starting in Oyo town, which is a small community, and there is a correctional center right there, which holds more than the capacity of people that should be there. So really the approach is communicating what exactly the situation is and why it's important to do something about it to the community heads, to the people in the churches, to private donors, and also we're looking to international donors as well, which is what I can do from here, you know. But I would, myself and the team will still need a lot of investment to make sure that things are running on the ground. And so, yeah, this has been what the situation is right now. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Again. Sorry for forgetting about you. Now I think we have the Quebec government ready to speak. You have the floor.
Thank you. Bonjour. My name is Audrey Laure. I work with the government of Quebec on a project called Saga in Senegal and Haiti. I want to thank panelists and the FAO for organizing this inspiring discussion on the importance of youth-led solutions. I would like to hear panelists on youth inclusion in the decision-making process, and especially with young women. How are you working together with young women in your initiatives? Thank you.
Thank you so much for your intervention. I want to open the floor before to collect another question, and then we'll.
So she asked the question.
I know. To collect another another question, and maybe we can address more than one. Okay, Ola Wole, you can go.
All right, thank you. My name is Olawale from Nigeria, from the same, in fact, my location is about 20 minutes drive to Ebon's place in Nigeria. Though we met only at this CFS, and we had a discussion around our project just yesterday. And I jumped in because already we are into training. My organization is in, we have a model ranch where we train, and we're to research for development. So we're already doing something in terms of training young people, smallholder farmers about livestock production. So the speaker earlier mentioned about building community. So I want to say that even right here, we're already building the community because we're already talking on how to collaborate on a project. So I'm sure with other people that will be working together, we will make that project a success. And I'm sure next time she's here, she will have great stories to tell. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Olawale. It's great to have connections. Building connections is also one of those things that has, that is what we are, the direction that we are going. And yet we still call for more partnerships and collaborations, because this is how we're going to be able to achieve this. It's not something that can be done alone. Thank you.
Thank you, Boone. Maybe now giving the floor to Leonardo, replying the Quebec question about youth inclusion in policy making, especially from a gender perspective. You have some insights about that.
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, also the projects in the EFAT have a really general approach, and that means we have lines to, to how we can work about it in terms of number of youth, number of persons, etc. No, that's quite important, because is the first step that we have. We know that not change the culture, the machismo in our countries, but it's really and a really big important for us to make you understand that we have this approach, and directly with a grassroots approach, and because it's the same, is related to work with EFAT projects. We try normally to find, help, support the women youth leadership. For example, in Colombia, I will be back with that. Asoje is led by Yuseili, who is a really, really big, strong young woman. Then normally what we try to do is going together in the projects as or grants, and support and strengthen the capacity of the young women. Then there is no, I don't know if I have sense for you, but I think it's the only way. You can go to the communities, just know the people, and if you know there are women youth, then you can help them to strengthen the capacity if they want. You know, you can read the community, the grassroots, that's the word, sorry, and learn if exists, for example, group of youth women network, or women involved, youth women involved in a group of producers, or women youth in scholarship, all the kind of group that you can find there, and try to involve in the project. And that's a line of if at work from the beginning. Then
Thank you so much. I would like to as well to, if you wish, of course, Samara, if you want to take the floor on this, I'm speaking a little about gender approaches, especially in youth and policymaking processes.
Yeah, sure. So as you saw, our project itself and our team is equal when it comes to gender balance. But we are working very closely with the Lanka Youth Organization, who are training especially young women on how to become an ocean steward. That means teaching them how to do conservation diving, and also how to take care of these coral reef balls once they've been put in the ocean. So these kind of training sessions are specifically given for young girls of the ages 16 and above. So that shows the initiative that youth, specifically in this field of ocean governance and marine sciences, has put forward. And I believe there's a lot of changes happening when it comes to the leadership as well. And there's a lot of women who are involved in the policy, specifically coming towards ocean governance, how to take care of resources, conservation, and etc. Just to quote Asha DeVos, who is a renowned youth activist and also marine biologist from Sri Lanka, who has done great work contributing to policies and advocating the young women on these topics. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Samara.
I'm just going to share from a different perspective of why it's important for women to be involved in such solutions. And if I understand the question correctly. So for me, I grew up in a home where my mom would keep a small head of chickens, or she would, even though she had a full-time job, she would produce, and she really loved, encouraged agriculture, encouraged sustainable food practices. We wouldn't waste food and things like that. And I was sharing with some colleagues that I met recently, this is how I was able to keep the focus in agriculture. And so it's important to empower women, because there is really a ripple effect that can come from that. And so when I decided to pursue a career in agriculture, I didn't have anything holding me back, even in a culture where the image of agriculture is not really something that's very fashionable, for instance. So empowering women in these communities goes a really long way, because you don't only empower them, you empower their children, you empower the youths as well. And you know, it's just like when you educate a woman, you educate the world. And that's the same with these kinds of interventions. Women play a very key role, and that's my take on that. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Now, I would like to give the floor to Ana Carolina that raised his hand before, and then if we have time for another question, maybe before wrapping up. So quick.
Thank you, Mario. I'm Ana Carolina. I'm a Brazilian farmer, and I'm on a Field International Scholar, and also a Bay Youth Delegation with the Next Gen Ag Impact Network, an organization to promote youth engagement and leadership. And I can say that we youth, we are committed to engage, but we need to create better conditions to take part of the conversation, right? So as a farmer, I do struggle with good internet connection in my property. And don't get me wrong, I am very privileged. And this is not just a problem in Brazil, this is a problem. I've been in the UK also in March, and they also struggle that in rural areas. And with the pandemic times, it was even worse. Everybody got some problems in getting to the digitalized world. But in the rural area, it was even worse, right? Because it meant we were physically apart, but also digitally apart. So to make farming sexy, as we like to say, we don't need to reinvent the wheel, but we need very basic things, right? So to access proper internet in rural areas, we're accessing education, we're accessing health assistance, we're accessing the full potential of machinery and technology. And we need to connect with the world to have a better life for us as well. So the future already exists, but is not well distributed. So my question to you is, how can we better distribute the future that already exists? Thank you.
Thank you. Is anyone from the panel that want to take the question?
Actually, we would also like to hear from the floor if someone wants to planning, you know.
Yeah. I want to say that it's important that we create a space for youth people that encourage the innovation of the youth, you know, because that is a very important part of youth, innovation, creating new things. So maybe in rural areas, it's difficult because there is not person that can take these innovation ideas of innovation and make it true. In this way, we can make rural area sexy, as you say. But also, I think that is a problem, for example, when the language is an issue. For example, in Wiper Peru, 70% of the 70% of the volunteers are women. But why I am here? Because in fact, there are a lot of these women that don't speak English, you know, and for the communities, for example, in Peru, is even a problem for us because there are a lot of people in the community that speak Quechua or Aymara. So even it's even more difficult, you know, that try to involve the youth in this space. So I think we have to create this space, make more, make a space that the people in fact can express their desires in their own language. You know? And yeah, is that all? Thanks.
Thank you. So, okay, really quick.
I'm sorry, just really quick, because that is the question. I have not responded for that, because is that the question? Exist a lot of resources in the world, but it's in the hands of not the little group of the people, and that's the thing. And that's what we have. If I was trying to write, because I was thinking about education, resource opportunities, access to lands, a lot of things, but that means we have to change the policies, and we have to change the way we are working the world. We are making the world. We are making the agricultural or non-agricultural, you know, the way we are creating rural development. I use this, you know. I remember when I was, I think it's in Bolivia or Salvador, I don't remember, but I was talking with youth, and they told me, I don't want to go out from my home. I love my chakra. I totally love it. But if I have not the opportunities here, and I don't want to transform my chakra in a building, a big building, it's just give me the opportunities to have a really good life here, and I will be totally, you know, able to work in the land. They don't. We are still thinking in like a city people, and that's the thing. We try to develop thinking like a city people, and that's not the way. We have to give them the opportunities, but that means we have to change the way we are doing politics, and how we can distribute the resources. That's the thing, and that's it's really hard, I know. But thank you for that question, and thank you my other colleagues for being here.
Thank you, everyone. I'm afraid we have to finish the events now. Sorry, because otherwise they are gonna kick our door, because they are having the plenary session right now. And we were supposed to finish 5 minutes before. I'm so sorry for those that we didn't have the time to contribute. So just to finish, we have acknowledged that youth are in the front line of the food systems, and they are our most social capital resource to actually transform our food system. This transformation will not happen if we are not able to involve youth actually in the transformation. So we need to have youth on the front line, and we need them to deliver innovative youth-led solutions to have a more attractive agriculture. We have discussed relevant topics about the need for spaces at this kind of political arena for youth, the need of increasing agency in youth, the need or the value of youth in bringing innovative bottom-up approaches, which is something key, I think. We have talked about food system as an open opportunity for incarcerated people, but for youth in general, youth leading innovation, education for youth that gives the opportunity for young people in rural areas to stay in their areas and make an impact in their territories. And we also have talked a little about gender perspective in youth. We only have time to showcase 5 youth solutions in this event, but I'm sure that there is already hundreds of youth-led solutions that are already happening in our regions, and there will be thousands of them if we are actually able to support those initiatives. So anyway, we have to step further of these tokenings on youth, in which we are approving the youth guidelines, and many governments believe like with only having a youth at the table is enough. We have shown that youth is not, youth is also a diversity of voices. You cannot represent youth only with one voice at the table. Before closing, I would like to also take a minute to thank to every partner of this event. That includes the FAO, specifically the OCB and the Climate Change Hub Knowledge, the World Food Forum, the Youth Alliance for Zero Hunger, the Young Professional for Agricultural Development, or YPAR, the Wageningen University and Research, I4 Network, Government of Quebec, the International Fund for Agricultural Development, and lastly, the International Association of Agricultural and Related Science Students, IAS. Please, especially to the 2 government representatives that we have here, thank you for being here, and please take this opportunity to engage with all the great young people that will be here at the CFS. Also next week we'll have the World Food Forum, and there will be a lot of young people, youth events. We also have the Snack Bites for Food Transformation, which is happening today, and tomorrow they will have a little discussion in at the lobby. And let's take advantage of this action-oriented policy recommendation that we even have hashtags on it. I was discussing with Ambassador Pio that was even harder. That was even hard to be accepted by the country, but it's really useful to say access to finance, access to knowledge. It really points out like a specific problem we have. Let's all remember that we don't only need policy for youth. Policies for youth are needed, are necessary, but are not enough. We need policies by youth and with the next generation. So thank you everyone for being here, and hope you have a lovely week.